Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a review on the One Piece anime filler arc, G8. Now I watched the G8 filler arc on the recommendation of you guys, and I am very glad that I listened to what you had to say because the G8 filler arc was fantastic. It was actually so good, it made me wonder if, Oda and his team, do they have a hand in doing the filler arcs? Like, do they tell Toei, who, as far as I'm aware, they handle the anime side, so they would be the ones that do the filler arcs. Does Toei storyboard their own filler arcs, or does Oda and his team have a hand in developing those filler arcs as well, so there is some continuity in the rest of the arcs? If you could please let me know that. If you know it, I'd really appreciate that. But while we are talking about continuity, before I even get into my intro, I want to talk about the continuity that this arc showed, right? So one of the big things going into this filler arc, I was expecting it to have no significance to the story, or to have I thought that the writing wouldn't be as good. Because when people talk about filler arcs, they generally talk about filler arcs in a negative sense. That's just what I hear as somebody on the outside trying to come in. And also, let me just say, thank you very much again for welcoming me with open arms. I really appreciate that. Your guidance has been incredibly helpful. But while we're talking about continuity, let's talk about the way that this filler arc starts. So it starts with them coming down from Sky Island, and they are falling in the octopus balloon on the boat. Right, they're just kind of chilling, they're just talking about, oh, where do you think we're going to end up, blah, blah, blah. And then the octopus balloon slowly starts to deflate. Until eventually it gets to the point where it completely deflates, and, we'll talk into Usopp being the real hero of this story later on. But that beginning part is incredibly important, because the way that this filler arc began is the way that the filler arc ends. And I thought that that was really clever, the way that they did that in a continuity fashion, right? Because, me as someone that hadn't watched a lot of anime and didn't really understand filler arcs, when they were on the rocks and the water had gone away, and they were like, crap, we've got the holes in the hull, how are we going to do this? I really had no idea what they were going to do. I actually thought that the old Marine guy, the one that was really friendly with Usopp, he has a line in the show where he is talking to Usopp in the jail cell, and for some reason he was really infatuated with Usopp. He was like, wow, this guy is really cool. I really like Usopp. And I think it might have just been a shared passion and love of ships. So I get that, because people do tend to have very strong feelings towards ships. But that old fella, that old timer, says something really interesting when Usopp is in the jail, and he's in there and he's talking about the boats, and the Marines pick him up and start carrying him away. The old fella says something along the lines of, make sure you check the parts of the boat that you don't check very often, because those are the parts that need the most repairs. He says something along those lines, and I'm like, either one, that's going to come up later on in the stories, and Oda and his team have said, hey, look, we've got a couple of big plot points, feel free to foreshadow them if you want. But what I really expected was when they were on their first escape route out of the bay or whatever, and they blow that gate for the first time, and they're like, oh no, the gold's gone, and Nami's like, oh crap, let's turn back, and they, turn back in the smoke screen. What I was really expecting was for Usopp to go down and check on, somewhere in the boat that you would never check, and he would find that the old fella had stashed all the gold there, or maybe the old fella had stashed a note there or something. I was little mildly thinking, is this guy Usopp's dad? But I believe that we have seen Usopp's dad already, so we know what he looks like, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't this guy. Anyway, with all of that continuity talk out of the way, let me get into this intro. So, firstly, you'll notice with my voice, I'm a little sick. It's not the ro-ro, so don't fear. I've been tested. It's just a regular cold. Sorry about the voice. Secondly, when I went into this, I really went into this, under the mindset that anything that happened in this story couldn't really have a greater effect on the rest of the story, or especially on the manga. So I went into it without taking a lot of notes. Generally, when I'm reading the manga, I'll take a lot of notes, especially the little things, because One Piece, I've said it 100 times, is an absolutely phenomenally well-written story, and all of the little things matter. So I generally take a lot of notes when I am reading the manga. But with this one, I really went into it just, wanting to sit there, chill out, and enjoy it. what I didn't expect was to find so much to talk about, because it was actually done really well. Firstly, one of the things I want to talk about is leadership, right? So this is one of the things that, like, so in One Piece, everyone's kind of doing their own thing, right? Everyone's got their own dream that they're chasing, and it's like the whole heart of One Piece is to, like, chase after your dreams. And all of the guys on the Going Merry, all of the people on the Going Merry, are all chasing this dream, and it's all taking them in the same direction. And the interesting thing about the manga is it seems like nobody is in a position of leadership, right? Like, we obviously have Luffy as the captain, but Luffy doesn't really show a lot of leadership. Like, if you're talking about healthy, good leadership, that's not Luffy. Luffy is a fantastic friend. Like, whenever any of his friends are in trouble, he will be there and he will, like, do whatever it takes to make the situation better. And he's an agent of, like, positive chaos and will, like, do whatever he thinks is right. But none of that is great leadership skills. And none of the others really show it, except for Usopp and Nami, which I have a feeling, you know, that's the, like, humanizing factor. It gives them more pertinence to the story, so to say. And even Robin has come in and is, like, throwing in, like, really intelligent lines as well. The point I'm trying to get at here is it was really interesting to see the display of both toxic and, like, healthy leadership in this episode. When you compare, like, the inspector guy and the old fella that runs the entire show. And I found that anytime the old fella that was, you know, the general, I'm going to call him, anytime the general was on the screen, it was generally positive, right? Like, he did a lot of great things. Like, for example, off the top of my head, when they first get the ship, like it first lands in the river or whatever, and everyone thinks it's a ghost ship, the colonel, or the general, whatever I'm going to call him as, he tells everybody that it is a ghost ship. And when he's in private and he's talking to his, like, you know, second in command or whatever, he says, so it's definitely not a ghost ship, it's definitely like this, this, and this. And the second in command is like, then why would you tell people it was a ghost ship? And the general says, because I didn't want to panic them. Right, there's a lot of new people here, there's a lot of people that haven't, like, wet their teeth, there's a lot of people that haven't, like, seen any pirates or combat or anything. If we were just to tell them that, hey, there's, you know, a couple of pirates with $100 billion bounty on their head and we have no idea where they are and they've just disappeared and they could be, like, killing us from the shadows, then everything's going to go to hell. But more than that was also his, like, attitude towards winning and losing, and how he was like, look, you know, at the end of the day, we didn't catch the Straw Hat Pirates, but, you know, it doesn't matter because we got a couple of things that are even better than that. We brought everyone together. You know, we sent a, like, jolt of excitement through this naval base, and we proved that it was still relevant because there are pirates like this Straw Hat Pirate crew. You know, we brought soldiers and support staff together. We gave them something to, like, be excited about, and we showed that they shouldn't get rid of us yet. And so for him, like, you know, you see a lot of his, like, metaphors all revolve around chess and fishing. For him, he was looking at that bigger game, and he removed his ego from the equation, which is, like, what great leadership is about. But also, on top of that, he was just, like, a great guy to watch. Like, he was just, like, so calm and so chill. And one of my favorite tropes, or whatever you want to call it, one of my favorite things in storytelling is honor amongst enemies. And, you know, you really saw this when the old fella was, like, on top of his balcony and Luffy and the others came out of, like, the cannon or whatever. And Luffy and the old fella are just, like, having a chat. Luffy's like, I'm gonna leave whenever I want. And the old guy's like, oh, yeah, okay, I get it. But what would you say if I told you we've captured some of your crew? And I really like those little things where it's just, like, honor amongst enemies. Of course, and to counter that, we have the toxic leadership of the inspector. You know, he was all about ego. Everything was like ego, and how I am viewed, that was always put first, to the detriment of the people that work for him. Like, for example, when he's trying to set a trap for the Straw Hat Pirates on the water, and he goes into the infirmary, and he's just like, all of these people that are sick and injured, I don't care. Get them on the boat. We're going to set up this ambush. Even though it's not needed, even though we are not needed there, because my ego, because I want to be the ones that catch the Straw Hat Pirate, we will be the ones to set up the ambush, get everyone on their feet and out the door. And as somebody that has been in the military, I can tell you that there is very much the good leadership and there is very much the toxic leadership that will just fuck you for their ego. So that was really great to see in this episode. Also, I did forget to mention that I did watch the subbed version, not the dubbed version. It wasn't any particular reason. I just created an account on Crunchyroll, and I only found the subbed version. So that's the one that I watched. I don't know if that makes me a bad person or not. I know there's always an argument about subbed versus dubbed, but I'm just glad that I could be a part of it. Alright, I want to talk about a couple of differences that I noticed between the anime and the manga, or like a couple of things that I really didn't expect. Firstly, let's talk about the like snail phones. I'd seen the description of the noise that they made like 100 times, but I never would have expected them to sound like bleh 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 bleh. I had a good chuckle when I saw that. Also, in a couple of reviews ago, I think it was it might have been the one, what was it? I think it was called Little Garden. I think it was the one where they were all stuck in the birthday cake from Mr. 3. I was talking about Sanji. Oh, also, I finally heard how Sanji's name is pronounced, so I will no longer be calling him Sanjay. So Sanji and Zoro had this, like, competition, and I'd noticed from that point on that there was like this rivalry, and there was like this kind of like they butted heads together. You know, one would call the other an idiot and the other would call the other a moron. And I asked a few questions about that. I was like, what's going on here? Is there some kind of like, what am I, there's definitely something building up here. I finally understood that dynamic more now that I've watched the anime, because it was interesting to watch Sanji when he does his like Gemini flip maneuver, because he's like this super suave French cook with the eyebrows, and he's like really fantastic at what he does. He's a fantastic cook. I can only presume he's a fantastic lover, and he's a fantastic fighter. And he really does have that like confidence and suave to pull that off, which is something that like I did sort of get in the manga, but I didn't really grasp the entirety of it until I watched the anime, right? And it was interesting how like cool and chill he was, which reminded me a lot of Zoro. But then whenever like a pretty girl would rock up, or any girl for that matter, he would just go into like full-on hardcore simp mode. And that's when Zoro would be like, you're an idiot, you're a moron, whatever. And it made so much more sense to me. It made so much more sense to me that they were like, it's like a brother relationship. It's a brotherhood dynamic, because they're so alike, because they're both just like incredible at their craft, and they're both just like chill and laid back and suave. And so it's just like silly to Zoro when Sanjay can just go from like how he is to like this just whimpering puppy dog. Alright, let's now move on to the portion where I mandatorily talk about how Usopp is secretly the real hero of this story. And to say that, or to have that conversation, I want to go back to the fact that this is a filler arc, and how I knew that there would be nothing to progress the story, and how it would end the way that it began. Or I didn't know that. I was really impressed that it did that. The thing that I didn't expect to happen was for the story to build on the blocks that were already set. Like, for example, in a lot of my reviews, I've often talked about how Usopp went from being this, like, cowardly coward to slowly becoming more brave and coming out of his shell. And we saw it in Sky Island, the last one, where he really, like, was a lot more brave. He really came out of his shell. He was really, like, came in clutch. And so it was interesting at the beginning of this one, when the octopus balloon was deflating, and they're all like, oh shit, oh no, everything's going to hell, what are we going to do? And Usopp's like, don't worry, I got this. And he like jumps over the side of the boat, and he shoots his grapple hook onto the boat, swings under, and puts all the breath dials underneath the hull, effectively saving everyone's life. And there were a few more really great Usopp moments in this story, like when he was in the prison with the inspector guy, and he's like, oh, Condinho, or whatever that guy's name was, and he convinced the Marines that the inspector was part of their crew, and then like Zoro headbutts him and knocks him out, so that way Robin would have more time to play inspector. But I thought one of the like really overt moments that they showed of like Usopp being a hero and stepping into that role and stepping up for his friends was right at the end when they're trying to inflate the balloon, and Usopp and Sanji and Zoro are down in the hull where the hole is, and Usopp doesn't want to use the blast dial. because obviously it's gonna hurt and like nobody else wants to use it, but reluctantly, because no one else is gonna do it, he takes that one for the team and he like blast stars at the side of it. And then it comes to the point where they need it one more time. And you can tell that he obviously doesn't want to do it because like he was hurt and he's going to get hurt more, but he knows that his friends need him. And he like looks to Zoro and he looks to Sanji and he's like, hold my arms, support my shoulders. I'm going to do this again. And in that moment, you know, you can see the respect that Zoro and Sanji have for Usopp because they say something like, you know, well done and you're awesome or something. And then Usopp does it again and takes that one for the team again. And just while I'm on the subject of Usopp, I just want to say I definitely felt, interpreted some kind of chemistry between like Usopp and Robin when they were like in the bush, and then, you know, there was like some other stuff that happened I can't really remember, and maybe I'm just reading too far into that, but it was like, I definitely saw some like chemistry going on there. I'm just saying. There were also a lot of like really great humor moments in this. There are a lot of times that I just like physically laughed out loud, like when they get to the vault or whatever, and Luffy's like, I got this, Gum like pistols the vault, bounces off and just punches out Zoro. I had like a really solid laugh at that. Or when Sanjay is trying to like use the blast dial to like blow open their cell, and he does it and it's just like a big fart stored in the blast dial, and they're like, why would somebody fart in the dial? Who would do that? And Luffy's just there passed out like, yeah, sorry, that was me. Also, the moment where, like, crazy Chopper, or, like, Chopper's trying to be crazy and, like, convince the Marines that he's gonna kill Nami and Kabuto, I believe her name was, the doctor. And he's, like, pulling these, like, crazy faces, and he's like, I'll do it. And he's trying to look, like, insane, and it was just so funny to watch. And especially when, like, Zoro was just like, yep, he'll do it. He's insane, and he's just like, he'll do it. I'm really glad that I watched this for the timing, for the comedic timing, the comedic deliverance of lines like that. I thought it was fantastic. And while we're talking about Chopper, let's talk about Chopper's story splice, whatever you want to call it. Chopper's story I really liked in this one. I really liked seeing him take charge because, like I've said before, I feel like now that Usopp has become brave, Usopp is becoming a hero, is becoming the brave high seas warrior that he wants to be, and he's chasing that dream. Chopper has stepped up and started to fill his original shoes of being the cowardly one. So it was really nice to see Chopper get into like that infirmary and all these people are like dying, and Chopper's just like, no, I'm gonna step up, I'm going to like organize all these people, get them where they need to go, get them to the OR room, I'm gonna wake up Kabuto again, and I'm gonna walk her through all of the surgeries and make sure everything goes well. So I did really like Chopper's splice of a story that happened in this one. Let's talk about Sanji. Let's talk about his like entire thing in the kitchen. Loved it. When they do like the big cook-off, the big MasterChef cook-off thing, and he waits until they're all done, and then he like goes in and he like picks up all of the scraps and just like makes something amazing, like really healthy, really delicious, and with no waste. And he's like, you know, we're on a battlefield here. Every scrap of food counts. And it just like humbles all of the cooks, and then, you know, there's the more humbling when Sanji leaves his recipes behind, and the head chef, I believe her name was Jessica, takes the recipes and is like, no, we're not going to follow a pirate's recipe. But then all of the Marines are like, hey, feed us the good shit again. And I feel as if this is a great moment in regards to, at the end of the story, when her husband, the general guy, is like, it brought us all together because Jessica dropped the ego. You know, she was talking a lot about like, do you have no like shame? Do you have no pride? You're going to use recipes from a pirate. But she dropped the ego in order to feed the people the best that she could. And I feel as if it's like such a great tie-in for what the general says at the end in like, hey, you know, this gave us a jolt and it brought us all together. So anyway, all in all, I had a great time. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for recommending it to me. Are there any other filler arcs that I should watch? Please let me know, because I did have a really great time, and I got like a 14-day free trial from Crunchyroll. So if I have to like power through 7 One Piece arcs in order to get to another filler arc, I'll do it in 14 days. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Please fill me in on any more information about filler arcs or like anything like that. I always love to learn. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you next week. I believe it is Water 7 we're doing next week. And as always, thank you very much.